Brother Romeo, can Catholicism and Adventism learn from each other? What do you say? What's your answer? Come on now. Come on. Y'all not. Come on now. What is your answer? No.
Hello, friends. Welcome once again to the YouTube channel. You're here with Pastor James Devalon. Listen, we have some very strange development happening in the world, to be more specific, in the Seventh-day Adventist world. And some things are very, very and extremely questionable. And I will say this is one of those cases as we speak. Now, we have to examine the thing. I don't want to be irrational because we can only work with the information that we are given at the time, right? So this is Loma Linda University, Adventism and Catholicism in a changing world. Can they learn from each other? This is a big question. It's a massive question. Let's look at the flyer a little bit deeper, because when you take a deeper look at the flyer, and I'm going directly on their website, this is what it says. So let's blow it up so you have an idea of the nature of what is being stated. So it says, brought to you by Loma Linda University, Center for Understanding World Religion and Humanities Program. And you talk about Adventism and Catholicism in a changing world. What can they learn from each other? We have the pictures here of, we have the PhD, Reindeer Bruisman, speakers, Reverend Reminis Ike, I'm not sure, and Dennis Fordham, PhD also. And let's read carefully what they're saying. We have to go a little bit deeper with this. The Seventh-day Adventist Church and Roman Catholic churches have had a turbulent relationship through the years. But in today's world, many people can see them as having much more in common than what separates them. Okay. The panel will explore the intriguing question of what two churches can learn from each other and what that might imply for the future. Reindeer Bruisma will premiere his new book on the topic at the close of the program. So this is scheduled to take place on the Sabbath, October 12th at 3 p.m. You can attend it in person. So they're very open about this. And I think this is only fair to say the fact that they're open, they promote it on their page. It is on their website. So they're not hiding anything. It's only fair to say, for those of us who do not understand what might involve in this conversation, it's only fair to say, go over there and take a listen, right? If this is going to be live streamed, we will be taking a look, right? And this is what we should be doing. What I don't want to do is jump into conclusion, because I don't know. So the question is, can Seventh-day Adventists learn from Roman Catholics? Can Roman Catholic learn from Seventh-day Adventists? That answer is yes. That answer is yes. Now, you may not agree with it. I will say, yes, we can learn from anybody. I think now it depends exactly what we are learning. It depends exactly, is it biblical truths, or is it just ways to deal with certain things in the world, in certain relationships? Is it business oriented? So you gotta broaden that spectrum a little bit more. What can they learn from us? So they can learn a lot about church structure, certain policies that we have, the way we teach the Bible, and so on. So, yeah, I mean, I myself wouldn't jump into conclusion too quickly when it comes to this, because we are given a little information of what is on the agenda and what is to be discussed. We know that a book is going to be spoken about. Yeah, Reindeer Bruisma's book will be premiered that day. So there's going to be a panel and discussion about some of the things that they agree with and disagree with. Does this prove the Catholic Church and the Seventh-day Adventist Church are uniting? I wouldn't say that. I think people who quickly say stuff like this, I said, work with the facts. You don't have facts for that now. We have to wait to see what is discussed in the meeting. To say that a Seventh-day Adventist and a Roman Catholic cannot have a relationship, that's also another extreme. Now, what sort of relationship are we having? What sort of relationship is this institution having? That's the bigger question that we have to ask about. So I don't like to just jump into conclusion and start speculating certain things that I don't know about. So this is why we're gonna bring somebody in the channel who's gonna give us another side of the story. So this is the Sunday Law Update. Dr. O is going to do some talking here, and I think this is a good source of truth for those of us who want to hear different perspective and opinion on the matter. This is a good place I would recommend. So let's listen to what they're saying about it. Okay, like for me, I haven't really, I actually be honest with you, I haven't really heard this. I haven't even listened to this. So I'm giving you my perspective from the flyer and from what's on their website. I don't even know what's going to be discussed. So I cannot jump into a conclusion. No, I cannot make a judgment because we don't know what the doctrine is going to be about. For example, there are things that Seventh-day Adventists believe, such as abortion is not something that should be legalized. Whereas there's some Seventh-day Adventists who have a different perspective, but as a church, we don't believe that. Catholics have that in common. Could these issues be something we work on, right? Could we work on certain ways to help families and children with our parents and so on? Is there ways that the Catholic Church can work with the Seventh-day Adventist Church to make the world a better place, right? But does that mean we should unite with them, right, as a religious body? No. Can the Seventh-day Adventist Church work with other denominations? By all means, we should. We can. Does that mean we have to become one with them? Does that mean we have to become uniformed, right? It's one thing to have unity in certain ideologies, but it's another thing to become uniformed in our doctrinal position. That is something completely different. And I think we have to differentiate between the two. So the Sunday Law Update here, let's take a listen to what Dr. Ho has to say in the panel. Let's see what else we can learn.
Now, what happens is this is an event that's going to be happening at Loma Linda University next month. Now, let me say this to you. This is not to castigate, denounce anybody, but we're pointing out something that is so serious that I've asked the four of you to come on this panel today. It says Adventism, and it says brought to you by Loma Linda University, Center for Understanding World Religions and Humanities Program. Adventism and Catholicism, you know, those are the two. These are two antitheses, the remnant and Babylon. Adventism and Catholicism in a changing world. Can they learn from each other? Now, before I ask the question, what the question is, what is it that we know? We know that on this Sunday Law Update, we know that the United States will form an image of the beast that will enforce the worship of the second beast, which will lead to the enforcement of the mark of the beast, which will be Sunday worship. What we do know from the Catholic Church is that Sunday is their mark of authority, which will be the mark of the beast, and we know that. What we do know that the National Sunday Law will either put you on the beast side or on God's side. Do you understand this? So what we see here is, the question is, can they learn from each other? Now, Brother Richard, can you take it off the screen right quick? Because I want to talk to the panel. My brother, can Catholicism and Adventism learn from each other?
Have mercy is true. They are completely opposite. We know about the beast. We learn about the Antichrist in the Bible, and of course the Catholicism there.
Yes.
The Catholic system of belief is the Antichrist. So the Lord can reveal more and more to us about, but we know the direction of the Antichrist. And we are, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, as you just said, we are the complete opposite, the antithesis of the Antichrist. We're the remnant. And they even believe that we're the remnant. Because they know the things that we teach. They know that the things that we're teaching is completely contrary, completely opposite of them, because they go straight contrary to the Bible and to us. So can they learn anything more? I think their position is a farce.
Brother Romeo, can Catholicism and Adventism learn from each other? What do you say? What's your answer? Come on now. Come on. Y'all not. Come on now. What is your answer? No.
I mean, no, if you're speaking from a spiritual perspective, But learning from each other, there's more you can learn from a different denomination outside of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So it's my yes is yes, it depends on what we are learning from each other about. No, if we are gonna go into the Bible and looking at the teachings and Mary and all that, and this is a line we don't cross. This is where we said, oh no, this far but no further. But if you're saying from a business structure, from an organizational structure, policies and so on, and certain ideologies in the way that they deal with certain issues in the world, could they learn from each other? Yeah, they can. I mean, I think it would be an arrogant statement from me as a Seventh-day Adventist to say, I cannot learn from any other denomination. I cannot learn from a Roman Catholic at all. That's just crazy. I think that's a very prideful statement. The truth is we can learn. We can learn from one another, but we don't have to unite though. It's a different thing to learn from a person who has a different biblical view than you. And even from the beast power, we understand the beast power. It's one thing to say, yeah, they're all wrong on certain issues when it comes to the Bible. But to say we cannot learn anything from them because they are not, they don't believe what we believe biblically is also not right. So I think the Seventh-day Adventist Church has to think about the way they word that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to word that a little bit different than, no, we can learn nothing from you. You know, so that is actually not something I will agree with. You know, I can learn from a Baptist, from a Mennonite. Actually, we went to visit a Mennonite church with a friend. I mean, it was amazing watching their way. We didn't learn much from their teachings, but the way they structure their home, it was amazing. Like the stuff you were able to learn, the way they took care of their farms. Oh man, the way they raised their children, it was like, okay, we can learn something. You know, so and I think it's from that perspective I'm coming from. It's not necessarily like, oh, let's go and unite with the Pope of Rome and the beast and let's follow in everything he says. No. But there is still a danger to these relationships, though, and I'm going to explain that. What I'm saying is, yes, we can be open-minded to have these discussions with other denominations, including the Catholic Church, irrespective of what we know, what Bible prophecy says. Because, again, these are people. At the end of the day, we have to disagree with the system of the Catholic Church and what it promotes at its very heart. But when we have to be careful with how we deal and how we, when it comes to relationship with the Catholic people themselves, there has to be a different approach. But nevertheless, there is still some danger to these type of relationship. Even though we might be building relationship on a positive means, they can go in a very deadly direction in the future. That is where the scary thing is for me. So I would have never promoted something like that. I would not put it on my website. I would say, you know what? Nah, we good. But Loma Linda is doing it. It's not shocking. Loma Linda has had a history of stuff like that before. But to go quickly and judge the nature of what they're doing without us seeing the facts and the evidence and the discussion, I'm unable to jump into that conclusion, not at the moment. All right, so let's keep listening to the rest of the panel.
But I want to hear from you. Do you believe different than what the church is saying here? Can Catholicism and Adventism learn anything from each other?
Absolutely not, because the Bible says, can two walk together unless they agree? They believe Sunday worship, we believe God's Sabbath day, which is Saturday.
Brother Craig, can Catholicism and Adventism learn anything from each other?
Just to echo my brother's point, what fellowship hath light with darkness? And, if we are there's only two women in Revelation. One is a whore, the other one's a true church. And historically, when you look at prophecy, there's not been any kind of relationship, any kind of dialogue that's been possible between the two. There's nothing to be learned.
So based upon our theology, based upon what we teach and believe, really answers this question. So, Brother Dave, can Catholicism and Adventism learn from each other?
I think that they can learn from us if they are willing, and
that's the bottom line. So what happens is, can they learn from us?
Yes, they can.
And if they really learn from us, what would happen to the Catholic if they learn from us? They will no longer be a Catholic. Am I right, somebody? I like that. But can
But that's also, I agree with that part too. Yes, they can learn from us. So that means you got to put forth the effort to build a relationship so that they can learn. So if Loma Linda, which I don't know, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, if Loma Linda is looking to build a degree of relationship with Roman Catholics in the hope that they can learn the truth, the theology, the theological position of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, listen, man, I'm all for it. But if Loma Linda is going there in the name of just hanging out with the bees and getting to know the heart of the bees and become sympathetic to it, that's another problem. Now, if Loma Linda is doing this for the purpose to address certain issues in the world, like we have issues in politics, in the social world, the mindset of the youth, same-sex marriage, abortion problem, and this and that, right? If they're coming under the notion to build certain relationship in the hope that they can address these issues, because there's been time in the Adventist church where we united with other people that were not of our faith to address alcohol, to address other things that were happening in marriages, in the home and stuff like that. So it's one thing to unite with another system in the hope to address certain issues that are very prevalent, that are impacting us as a Christian, period. But it's another thing to unite for the purpose of doing something else. So let me see what the panel went on to say here.
we learn from Catholicism? Nothing that we don't know already.
Right.
What is it that we don't know? That's right. What?
I'll be careful with this statement, though. Even though as a Seventh-day Adventist, when it comes to theological position, we have the truth as God lives, but we don't know everything that there is to know. I wouldn't say we know everything. I think that to say what is it that we don't know, I think there are some things that we don't know. There are some things we don't understand. But it's bigger than theology for me. You have to look at my perspective. I'm not looking at it from a theological perspective. So they're not wrong. The panel is not wrong because their approach to it is a theological view. So they're looking at it theologically. That is actually 100% correct. So from a theological perspective, we Seventh-day Adventists cannot learn from a Roman Catholic because we are black and white when it comes theologically speaking. But from a social perspective, is that a different story? From an ecclesiastical perspective, right? From a church structure perspective, there are some things they can learn from each other. Even from a political perspective, yes. From an economics perspective, could they learn from each other? Yes. So from an educational perspective, could they learn from each other? So these are things you got to look at it from a much broader aspect than just theologically. So I think Loma Linda is looking broader. So does that mean I know that for a fact? I don't know. I'm just giving the benefit of the doubts because I don't like to approach a matter in a way especially when I don't have all the facts. I have to look at it from a broader perspective and say, okay, I may not hit the dots here and there, but hopefully we hit it over here. So if I were on that panel, I would say it depends what we are learning from. It depends what the discussion is about. So it's not just from a theological perspective. No, there is no way. But there are other realms of discussions that could happen with different denominations, even including the Roman Catholics, irrespective of what we know and we know what the prophecy says. There's still some things people can learn from each other. Now, I want to get this statement on the screen. Okay, so let's look at this statement here, and this is what I'm talking about. This is the danger, though, when it comes to these type of relationships, because you tend to have these emotional attachments that will eventually create a deeper bond. And when you have these bonds with these industries and really, similar to what's happening with, the church and the state kind of thing, is like you're building these little connections over times. And before you know it, you end up doing their bidding in the end. And this is the danger. Now, listen to this, right? The time is not far distant when the test will come to every soul. The mark of the beast will be urged upon us. Now, listen carefully to those. Those who have step by step yielded to worldly demands and conformed to worldly customs will not find it a hard matter to yield to the powers that be, rather than to subject themselves to derision, insult, threatening imprisonment, and death. The contest is between the commandments of God and commandments of man. In this time, the goal will be separated from the dross in the church. So this is the danger of these relationships. So when you start building those little relationships in the name of fixing probably a real issue in the world, you ended up having this level of sympathy. And this is how you end up teaching. You end up getting rid of your own doctrines. And the danger is that when you start saying, well, we in Roman Catholics can unite and should unite, right? Please understand, that's not what I'm not telling you. This is a good thing. I'm saying if it does happen, this is where it could lead. So when you start uniting with these relationships, there's going to be emotional attachments. And then any teachings of ours that is in opposition to these relationships that you've built with the Roman Catholic Church, you will start denying them. So you take the great controversy, you'll throw it away. Last day events, away. So anything that has a notion to anti-Catholicism in our teachings, you start to put it aside because you want to secure these relationships. And this is how you end up in a position over time when you will conform to the powers that be.
What is your answer? No!
No, we can also learn something from the early Christians too, when they were confronting the idea of uniting with Rome for the purpose of peace and unity. Although this is something the Bible says we should, I think it's Romans chapter 12, we are told we should strive to live peaceably with all men. There it is right there. If it be possible, as much as lies in you, live peaceably with all men. So if it be possible, right? But it's not always possible, though. Unfortunately, we live in a world of sin. That's not always the case. So the early church had to confront the idea, whether or not they're going to be loving and caring Christians, or whether or not they're going to accept erroneous ideologies. And I think this is the landmine that Loma Linda might be stepping on if they're not careful. After a long and severe conflict, the faithful few decided to dissolve all union with the apostate church if she still refused to free herself from falsehoods and idolatry. And I think these statements are still true today for the Catholic Church. They saw that separation was an absolute necessity if they would obey the word of God. They dare not tolerate errors fatal to their souls and set an example which will imperil the faith of the children and children's children. To secure peace and unity, they were ready to make any concession consistent with fidelity to God. But they felt that even peace will be too dearly purchased at the sacrifice of principle. This is what we cannot sacrifice. Are we going to sacrifice principle in the process of uniting with Rome in a hope of working and learning from each other? That right there is a no, buddy. If unity could be secure only by the compromise of truth and righteousness, listen to the next few words, let there be difference and even war. That's what they believed then. What do we believe now? So is it a good idea for Loma Linda to be uniting with Roman Catholic Church in the name of learning from each other? No. But I still have to say, if they choose to do that, what are their reasons? Since they have not really clearly given their reasons, apart from the fact we're going to learn from each other, but we don't know what we are going to learn. We don't know what is in the agenda. Since we don't know, I can only suspend my opinion for now. But I will say, be cautious with this. I will still say, be very cautious with this. There is something, at the same time, there's something very dangerous to it. Anyway, friends, thank you for listening. Link in the description below. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. Check out the Sunday Law update. The information was actually very potent, very good. I agree with the panel. I know what they're trying to say, where they're coming from, but from a theological perspective. But again, I would like to hear from you. Where do you stand when it comes to this? Do you agree or disagree with me? It doesn't matter how you feel. I want to hear from you. Until next time, have a good one. Bye.